everyone, and welcome to my final presentation of my creative process project where I chose to make a character design inspired by the game Elden Ring. These images served as my main inspiration. I knew from the get-go that I wanted to make a bony character with some decadent accessories and jewelry, but I also wanted to incorporate the dragon somehow. I had this idea that since dragons are known to like treasure, I would design a character that starts off as the player's opponent, but then gets carried off midway through the battle by a dragon who mistakes them for a piece of treasure, so that the player would have to catch up with them and fight the dragon instead. While I was searching for golden embellished skeletal remains, research keywords that ensure my name can now be found on some concerning governmental watch lists, I came across these so-called heavenly bodies. They are the remains of saint-like figures in Christian religion, and most of them were martyrs, who were decorated posthumously by nuns in order to showcase their standing with God. I also made a more detailed collage of where I wanted the character to go, including some translucent, corroded clothing to show off their ribcage and the adjacent jewelry. So I started with a skull, but this alone took me an honestly embarrassing amount of time, and this was before I even tried to add any decoration to it. And I did find a nice way to create a golden effect in Photoshop in this process, which will come in handy a lot over the course of this project. While I overall liked the idea of this elaborate hat piece, I definitely knew that I first needed to get some fitting pieces of clothing going before I could fully settle on it. Designing clothing for skeletons proved to be way more difficult than I had initially assumed. Most clothing is actually designed to accommodate for a layer of fat and muscle on top of the ribcage, so whenever I tried to make things fit, it didn't. And I also didn't want to hide too much of the rib cage, as that would kind of defeat the purpose of where I wanted to go with it, you know, the whole dragon treasure gold thingy. And so I did what any rational person would do. I completely disregarded anything I had done up until this point and moved on to something completely new. Just work on the background imagery. Weird skeletal lady can't hurt you if you just don't open her Photoshop files ever for the time being. So I found this neat cave entrance from some cave in Vietnam that I would use as the base of my dragon lair, and I figured making a scene where my character runs away from this dragon straight into the treasure cave, it would make an interesting image to look at. So I put a bunch of golden embellishments into the cave walls and pieced together this dragon by matching different 3D models and Komodo dragon parts to fit into the cave entrance, and then I started painting them. Yeah, so remember how I mentioned in the beginning that I found like a way to make like interesting looking gold? Yeah, I'm gonna use a lot of that in this project, you know, if you have the skills, use them, and whatnot. So I made a completely golden version of the dragon and then just kind of decided which parts of it I wanted to like have these embellishments, and then I started shading in the rest, but I actually kind of like the idea of having like a white dragon, and just because nothing else in the scenery kind of had like these tones, and I knew that you know, like gold and white kind of looks nice and decadent, and it would fit like the whole heavenly bodies theme. So yeah, I kind of just decided to go with that color scheme, figuring if in the end it didn't look the way that I wanted, I could just change it, whatever. I started adjusting the lighting a little and dared to venture back to my actual character. But the thing is, at this point, I had spent so much time adjusting my dragon and looking at my dragon and thinking how I was going to paint my dragon, that I just started to resent my actual character because, well, she was not a dragon. My dragon didn't complain when I put decorations on her. I don't need to painstakingly adjust clothing on my dragon's ribcage because dragons don't even wear clothes. And dragons don't have bony hands that I have to color super carefully in a feeble attempt of making the contrast high enough for them to, you know, look different than the rest of the bony body. So I just, I cut off my character's head because that's the only thing that I really liked about it, and no way in hell am I letting that week that it took to paint it go to waste, and I put it into my dragon's cave. Um, Overall, I'm definitely like I like the way that it turned out. It's obviously not what I originally set out to do, and I guess the whole process of getting to where I am right now was a bit messy, and it was more of a failing my way to the desired result. But yeah, honestly, I definitely learned a lot. Mostly that I cannot paint very fast. So yeah, but let me know what you guys think. Thank you for paying attention or pretending to pay attention. Yep, that's it for me. Thanks.